Muchas gracias, Alba y Mateo, por todos. Lo siento, no hablo español.
Thank you so much for coming, both of you.
Big applause for Ben, please.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's more than 2 people there.
Hi, Andre. Thank you for
Hello.
coming. Hola.
Thank you for having me.
So we were just talking about the movie already because it's had a very good welcoming, right? And we were just talking about the difference between the way we sort of consumed violent media when we were growing up in the 90s or so, and the way teenagers do it now. Like sort of a reference, making a differentiation between how this generational gap can affect to this. And your movie is relevant in this because the way the shooting is depicted, someone in the audience said that it may even look naive, but not in a bad way, because since we are so used to like special effects now and everything. But I was gonna say, and this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, and I think maybe I mentioned the other day, it was basically that the way you stop this trip we are having all together as an audience along Carl and Andre during all this adventure they're having, taping everything. And then we stop accompanying them, and they just leave us in the car. And then when they do the actual shooting, I feel like it's kind of a way of dissociation. It's kind of breaking with the reality you built with the tapes, and it's kind of weird because I think that with all those tapes, you were showing something that was more magical and fantastic and more kind of like their delusions of, you know, this thing they had in mind. And then when you show it through all the CCTV cameras, it's more like, this is actually happening, but now you're seeing it from an angle that it's making you feel absolutely out of the picture. Like, it's like you don't even feel like you were there with both of them the whole time. Like you're completely apart from what is happening. And I think that's exactly what media does with the way it depicts violence. And that's why everyone is so accustomed to violence now. Now you can like explain what was your point with that and all those audiovisual resources and stuff.
Well, I guess I would first start by saying that with this approach to telling this story, you're embracing a cinematic minimalism.
Adiós. Okay, this is so funny porque like we just saw one of the crudest movies in like the last 20 years, and we're just gonna have a good time here now. Oh, Ben is back. Okay, good.
Did something happen? So really what it comes down to is perspective. Mm-hmm. Right? So the most of the movie is really through the 2 characters' perspective.
Vale.
They're showing you what they want to show you. Inadvertently, they end up showing their humanity as well. While they're doing their sort of video diary.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of accidentally show their humanity.
Yeah, these 2 kids kind of like live in this fantasy world, but are also so vulnerable in their own way. What do you have to say about their true beings while they're on camera? Because you as a creator, and also Kyle and Andre, I'm sure they have something to say about the way they developed these characters. So they ended up being what they were, and I would love to hear about your view on that. Oh.
Do you want to?
And the cat can speak too if they want.
for me, when we were in the process of making the film, a lot of what you see in the humanity of the character comes from the environment that Ben created while filming. We were really having fun. And I think in that way, we didn't go into creating this film thinking we had to make it the darkest and the most evil thing. We began from the perspective that they were naive teenagers and were slowly kind of tricking themselves into this act at the end of the film.
Sobre todo teniendo en cuenta que eran dos adolescentes que eran naive, en plan que eran tontos y que poco a poco se iban metiendo cada vez más en su fantasía. Y de hecho esto es algo que quería recalcar porque sí que es cierto que con las dos dinámicas que yo puedo apreciar de estos dos personajes se retroalimentan y esto sucede mucho de una manera muy peligrosa en la que tú puedes decir una tontería que al final acaba convirtiéndose en esto, porque lo que empezó tirándole huevos a la casa de uno, al final esa elevación gradual de esta misión y de como el subidón, ¿no? Y de esta retroalimentación tan peligrosa está muy bien captada en la película. The world building that Ben made for the movie was amazing because I got to see the website that he created for the whole thing, like with both your characters' backgrounds.
Andre made it. Andre created the website.
Oh, I didn't know that. Trivia. That's a good piece of trivia there. Thank you. But like, did you create all those stories, or was it like your script and Andre was like IT man, like?
Ben wrote all of the content. Ben created all of the story elements, and I was just the hands on the keyboard.
Okay.
My brother actually wrote a lot of that.
When you said that as they grow into this fantasy they're building, this is actually something that happens in this kind of cases when you get two very lonely individuals who had this very specific kinds of personalities that you can clearly see on Carl and on Andre, and when they give this sort of feedback the one to the other, and they motivate the other to like go further with things to a very dangerous point.
Alba, can I interject, because there's something about that I think is really I've always thought about, and it echoes something Cal said, which is that there's similarity in collaboration of all kinds, whether you're collaborating to make something beautiful or whether you're collaborating to make something awful.
First of all, I love your acting and your performances. One little thing that I noticed is that the dynamic between the two characters is very marked, right? Like Cal is clearly the most sensible, poetic, artistic-minded one, and Andre is more of the planner, and also like he's more practically minded, right? When we see we get little peeks at the backstory of Andre, for example, when Cal is talking with his girlfriend, like his friend that's a girl, not his, he seems to have told her like a lot of bad stuff that Andre has lived through, right? Like bullying. But it's more of an implied thing that Cal isn't like actively bullied. He's just really shy and off-putting to be around because of his shyness. While this isn't really a question, that's just more of something I noticed. The question was, we spoke a little bit before you came into the call about masculinity and its the place it plays in the story, right? Because at the end, for example, at the finished video when they are confessing basically for the media and everything else, the examples they put are of emasculating things, and this guy called me a faggot when I was walking down the hallway, or this guy, I mean, they did duels in medieval times. So yeah, I also put the example that there are no school shootings perpetrated by women. That's, I don't know. I think that's something to.
There are some, but they're but very rare. Oh, they happen like one in a.
There's big more.
There was
more
one
gender
not too long
equity
ago
in the space of school shootings.
Yeah, I wanted to know just how much of that was you actively trying to confront that, or how much was it just the zeitgeist, like the because it's very 2000s, like the jokes, the homophobic jokes. Yeah, when they burn a Nazi, you know, swastika, all of that, it feels a lot like the 2000s.
It is
really edgy. How much of it was on purpose?
I'm curious to hear what Andre and Cal have to say about this, actually.
So where the characterization for the Andre character comes from, I think, is the people who are usually loudest in a room, the people who usually assert themselves the most, in my experience, are typically the people who are least secure or most insecure, I guess, and often who know the least about whatever subject they're asserting. And I think Andre's defense mechanism is to assert himself and make himself as big as possible to one other person, where it's safe to do so, because he's made so small elsewhere. And that's his way of compensating. So when people say that he's the leader or the more aggressive one, I think it's an act, because he can't behave that way elsewhere. He has to overcompensate for it privately with Cal.
I'm going to pass the mic. Just one little thing I noticed about your acting, Andre. When you are shooting at the stuffed animals and all of that, you make a really like a face of like you are really putting the face of the people that bullied you in the stuffed animals. You know, like it's a kind of look. I love that look.
Like very angry.
Yeah, really angry. Really good acting.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would just add real quick too that it's always good to remember that in the context of the perspective of how this movie is being presented, that you could think of Andre and Cal as narrators, and kind of unreliable narrators. And actually, I've come to kind of feel that all narrators are unreliable narrators.
About what Andre said, I wanted to add something, because I have some notes here about that. His character, and not only his, but also Cal's, this is what I got from your acting, and this is what I got from your lines and the way you approached your character. About superiority, or how do you say this? I don't know. I feel like inside all kinds of superiority, porque suena súper raro ahora esta palabra, se dice así, vale. There's an underlying feeling of being less than everyone else, and kind of like, because of this, you then have to get above people who are weaker than you. And I think this is also something that the movie lets you see when at the last scene, when these guys go and burn their crosses. There's this one guy who says they were all like 14 years old. And something funny that I noticed is that every time Cal or Andre tell like an anecdote where they had a bad time, or maybe, I don't know, the note from the girl in the class or something, most of the time they talk about the past that has affected them. They were 14. So it's kind of like, you were going through that when you were that age, and now all your victims were people going just through the same stuff you were going through. You know, in the end, it's kind of like, it's useless. That is a wasted life, I think. And that's what I got from the movie. I don't know if that's me like over-analyzing things, but I really love that detail because I think that being 14 is a very critical age. So I think that was a good detail.
Quería decir, antes de cuando han hablado de que Cal y Andrés son como un equipazo buenísimo a la hora de hacer cosas, lo que pasa es que las cosas que hacen son horribles. Pero quería remarcar, que si le puedes decir, que realmente, qué pena, porque son buenísimos planeando cosas. O sea, la verdad es que
Si hubiera sido bueno.
Si hubiera sido un plan para darle una sorpresa a su madre o algo así, yo qué sé, habría sido espectacular. Porque son buenísimos y no sé cuántos de ellos hay o cuántos de Ben, pero realmente es una película que si no terminara como termina, sería súper inspiradora en plan de cómo hacer las cosas y llevarlas a cabo. Lo que pasa es que es horrorosa en ese sentido, pero es una de las cosas que más me gusta, lo buenos que habrían sido para hacer las cosas bien y lo hacen todo al lado malo. Es una
Passion
pena.
planners.
Sí, Passion Planners.
And this is one of the things that influenced her the most about your movie and your acting and everything, was that how good you both are to plan things and like actually make them happen. So if you would have been a couple of good guys and maybe we're actually planning like a surprise for your mom, a surprise birthday party or something, like that way, that would have been so great because you were just so good as planners. And it's sad that you went the wrong way, but that was her commentary about.
Perfect way to kind of say what I was trying to say before about the universality of collaboration. How it's put it to one end, put it to the other. There's something beautiful about collaboration, even when it's awful.
Me gustaría como remarcar que previamente a que ellos entraran en la llamada y tal, hemos estado hablando y eso, de qué nos parecía la peli y tal, y que lo que hace que me dé muchísimo miedo es lo real que es, ¿no? Cómo está, o sea, hemos hablado de cómo se queda el plano ahí puesto en el coche y tal, pero realmente el hecho de que aparezcan las cámaras de seguridad, que se escuche todo el rato lo de Andrea, are you here? ¿No? Eso a mí me ha causado una ansiedad y un miedo, y el hecho de que sea tan real y de que, evidentemente, me imagino que el director se ha basado en el footage que se encontraron previamente y eso, pero no sé si es como una decisión, o sea, la pregunta es, no sé si es una decisión que él ha tomado de que lo quería hacer lo más fidedigna posible, o que no tenía medios, o es una amalgama de todas esas cosas, pero que el hecho de cómo está filmada y de las decisiones, que parece como todo muy aleatorio y tal, pero que me parece que está todo medido al milímetro, que se nota muchísimo, y que de verdad que felicidades, que me ha gustado mucho la peli. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you, and I will say that when I saw Columbine shooting happening on the news, I remember feeling very strongly that I wanted to make a movie about that, and I thought that the only way you could do it would be at an epic scale, like P.T. Anderson does Columbine. And there was no way I could do that. And then as I did research, and I found that the two kids at Columbine had made a video diary, it occurred to me that that's something that I had done for my whole life with my friends, and that I knew a lot about that, and I knew how to use that cinematically. And what became kind of creative necessity over the course of working on it, I was really grateful for those limitations, because I think it just is such. It would have been awful if had I got to do it the way I wanted to originally.
And how was that way?
It would have been really bad if I had gotten to do it the way that I wanted to do it originally, and the way that I had to do it because of budget limitations really was a lot better.
If make you to grow up differently if you didn't make these films with this director and this script. Thank you.
Yeah, actors, go.
Can you just state for me the question for that was for me and
Yeah,
Andre?
I got it. Also, this one was one of the questions that I wanted to actually ask you because since I'm also studying children's development and teenagers development and all that, one thing that really, she said that too, that struck me was how young you were when you were doing this. And I thought that in what way making that movie affected you, if it did, like on your development or the way you saw things or the way or the things you liked, I don't know, if it affected you at all in the decisions you would make in the future. Since I think that as far as I know from the research I've done, I think Ben went to you and he was basically like, listen, we're gonna make a film where I'm going to train you to do a shooting. And I'm like, this is kind of like a sociological experiment too. These kids are like 15, so I'm interested in if that really happened, if that could affect you that way.
Well, it only affected my life in a positive way. For me, and I think for Andre as well, it was a first experience with a meaningful artistic project. And I know for me, it altered the course of my life forever. I don't know that it gives anyone special knowledge of why these events happen. I have continued to be involved in film projects to this day and have maintained my relationship with Ben and Andre. And I do think it is strange when I can remember one time there was a shooting, I don't know where, it was a shooting in a school in the Midwest somewhere in the United States. And I remember seeing on the television, they were talking about this killer's social media pages, and they showed it on the screen, and my face and Andre's face were like moving on the screen as they were moving through it. But this person was a fan of the film.
That must have been awful.
It was very strange.
Yeah, must have been. Sounds weird.
It was something I knew I was interested in since childhood, but it's just the providence of life bringing people together, and it certainly reinforced my personal interest in making films.
And Andre, how was it for you after making this movie?
I had known Cal before we started making the movie because we had done theater together. And then through meeting Ben, I ended up with I have an older brother, but now I have an extra older brother, and by extension, Chris. And I think it was the first time creatively that I was treated like a peer and a collaborator. When you're a teenager working on stage, the director treats you like a child, regardless of what your part is. And driving around for a summer with this random 26-year-old who's talking to you like an adult just gives you a sense of all of the things that are possible in the world, because now you're being treated like an adult. And I remember after we shot that final sequence, that big shooting scene, we had crew, we had craft services, we had all this stuff. And I got home that night and I was so amped and so excited. And the first thing I had to do the next day was mow the lawn. And I was so disappointed. And I knew that was the thing I wanted to do. And I haven't been able to do it since, but I would love to do it again if I had the chance to.
I just wanted to quickly add too that I was about 10 years older than these guys when we made this movie. It was my first experience being responsible for someone else's kids.
Oh shit!
I never babysat before, but they kind of started off as my artistic collaborators and like younger brothers, and also sort of like trainer children for when I might have children someday. and then over time they grew into being like in so many ways mentors for me and teach me about things. And we're all, Cal, Andre, and I are now all adults that have kids. And I think what's interesting is from the perspective of, like, forgetting the movie for a second and engaging with children and treating them as equals and letting them have the responsibility and enjoyment of collaboration. If our society or cultures could do that somehow with everybody,
That's
I
right.
don't think that there would be a lot of mass killing.
Quería preguntar dos cosas que espero que tengan que ver ahora mismo con lo que acabas de introducir, pero es que
Sí, ya vamos a pasar a un aspecto más artístico.
quería decir primero que si le puedes decir que agradezco muchísimo y que me intriga muchísimo también la manera que tiene de narrar las cosas en esta película, en plan, por ejemplo, si hubiera elegido enseñarnos la violencia que sufren Cal y Andre en la escuela con un quarterback ahí pegándoles o algo así, como, losers, no sé qué, tal, y ellos ahí sufriendo. Y sin embargo no se ve nada de eso, y la única escena en la que se ven interactuando con otra gente es, por ejemplo, un vídeo que me encanta, que es el vídeo de Andre y de Cal en su cumpleaños, de chiquitillo, que se ve la incomodidad, o sea, y la limusina, la prom. O sea, en vez de enseñarte violencia, en plan de los machotes del colegio pegándoles y ellos siendo ahí sometidos, es como, se ve como que no encajan para nada en la sociedad y no saben qué hacer cuando se relacionan con otra gente y están como totalmente fuera, y es como súper violento sin utilizar la violencia, y quiero saber hasta qué punto, o sea, tenía como eso pensado, y decidí que le agradezco muchísimo que lo haya hecho así, porque me llega mucho más, me siento como... No me siento identificada con ellos, pero me siento más, puedo llegar a sentirme más identificada con ellos de esa manera, en vez de que haya sido algo como tan literal, en plan, como una violencia tan...
Porque es más con la soledad que con...
Sí, con la incomodidad hacia la sociedad, no encajar.
Vale.
No encajar de esa manera tan brutal en una sociedad, ¿sabes? Más que te peguen contra la taquilla o te digan loser, ¿sabes? O algo así, es como...
In Kyle's birthday, where he looks like super uncomfortable, poor thing.
I
Ay,
love
mira,
that
se
thing.
descojona.
Dile que porfa, creo que es mi escena favorita.
She says that Kyle's birthday is her favorite scene. And also, I would like to add that
real life, no?
it's real life. Because she could identify more with the feeling of this kind of not belonging anywhere. Also, when we can see Andre, who is not in the prom, cleaning and like, you know, and we can see these sorts of kinds of violence towards these characters that make them feel this awkward and this out of the world, and which I think feeds their feeling of like, I don't belong here, then I have to become something higher for them.
Y me gustaría saber cómo tomó esa decisión de no enseñarlo en plan con un quarterback ahí empujándolos
Vale.
y eso, y cómo decidió enseñar la incomodidad más que la violencia hacia ellos.
Yeah, it's great question. And, you know, a huge amount of it was a combination of research at that time, mostly about Columbine, and my own like personal experience. When I saw Columbine happen, I was in a pizza place and it was on the news and a TV in the corner of the pizza place as I was getting a slice. It was really confusing because it was a shot of a high school, like from a helicopter, which hadn't really been something I'd seen on TV yet. And I was like, what's happening? And I found out what's happening. And I feel weird about this to this day, but I just remember my instant thought was, wow, I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner. Just kind of sad. Big part of it was kind of like thinking about how all of the narratives that came flooding at me through the media after Columbine about why this happened felt utterly inadequate to what it was that I saw and felt. None of it added up. I mean, I'd been bullied. I'd felt alienated. You know, I'd been in murderous rages when I was in high school. And I knew a lot of other kids that had it way worse than me. And I guess I just felt a combination of, empathy with not just the victims, but the two shooters as well. Added to that, this feeling of ever deepening mystery you could never really get to the bottom of. And I think that informed creating scenes where you could say, well, look, they're so alienated, or look, this one character is in a slightly different, socioeconomic layer of society, or look, they're different, or they're weird, they got bullied, they complain about being bullied, whatever. But without seeing those episodes and just hearing sort of a narration of them from the characters, there's always a question of something you don't know, some doubt, some mystery.
The film was shocking for me because I thought it was real footage at first, and the scene of the shooting was so disturbing. But I liked the moments of Carl and Andre saying, okay, how we do this, the suicide. 1, 2, bang, 1, 2, 3, bang. that was like a relief moment. And I wanted to ask Ben what goal he had with the film. What did he want to accomplish or add value to society in some way? I don't know. And ask Carl and Andre how did they feel playing those characters and having to play like this psychological state. And that's all. Thank you for the film, by the way.
Which is good, I think.
Thank you, Ben.
So, Andre and Carl, how did you feel when you had to portray these characters in this mental state and everything? How was it for you?
I think that from a very sort of selfish, creative, cynical perspective, when you read the script, you think this is a really great part. This is a really interesting role. There is a lot of sensitivity around it. There's a lot of potential to do it very, very badly. And that's also an exciting challenge. And then you have to take a leap of faith in someone like Ben, at the time 26-year-old director, thinking, can this guy actually do this and not make me look like an asshole? And very successfully, I think he pulled that off, which was great. And then in terms of like how it felt, you just work every scene for what it is on the page and what you're doing with your scene partner, which is almost always, for me, it was Cal. And you just try to do the best work in the moment. And then hopefully when it comes together, all those best moments have created something, worthwhile that'll last. So we got very lucky in that sense because it worked out.
I try not to think at all about, I've always found performing works best for me with as little conscious activity as possible. And it's just sort of, so how did it feel? It's like a spirit overtakes you and you're not in control. And in the end, the film is there.
Isn't that like the shamanic nouveau or something? No, that's a Nicolas Cage joke. I'm sorry. I had to say that.
Ben, first of all, you are surprisingly bright. So that's very, very funny. Do you understand? Surprisingly bright.
Like you are so cheery and like...
Yeah. Surprisingly funny.
Should I be like cutting myself with a razor?
Well, first of all, I don't think that the main characters are naive at all. They are intelligent and they are very conscious. At least they express that. And I wanted to say that it's very important, the social message, children killing children. So, from a social perspective and not for a psychological one, talking about narcissism or isolation, like individuals, they say a very important thing in the tape about meaningful, about life, live life meaningfully. And I think they are asking for some kind of acceptation of diversity. So for me, that's the most important message. It's like they now are, people are listening to them now because they kill people. Do you understand? But the message is not, there is not more reasons at all, because it's true about the bullying and it's true about the difference, but what Andre says in that tape, that for me is very important, is that, hey, we are all the same, please respect. So that's all I wanted to say. And also I feel that it's brilliant, the neutral voice of the girl describing the shoot sense without any feeling.
I just want to quickly answer that with an anecdote from right after we made it. My dad watched it. When my dad watched this movie, his comment to me was, "You did a good job, but you know, the thing about people like that who do stuff like that is you always know. You always know who they are. You can always spot them. You can always tell." And when my dad told me that, I felt really sad. Not because I felt like I was being criticized for being a bad filmmaker, but because I felt sad that my dad had to tell himself that in order to deal with the fact that we live in a scary world where bad things can happen that you can't anticipate.
We have to finish now, but I have one last question for the meeting. Well, I have to say that I see a lot of poetry in this film, and I think that there's something human all around this film, and I think I would like to ask you all three, how do you see this film 20 years after 20 years after the making it? How it aged for you?
No, I really want to hear what Andre and Cal have to say about how it feels 20 years later, because it is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you had told me 20 years ago, hey, here's what's going to happen, I certainly wouldn't have believed that. It's humbling to get, Instagram messages or social media messages, or to be at an event like this for something that we did this summer. We were 16 years old. When you put that in context over a lifetime and you think you did this thing that still stands up, it's incredible. And I think mostly a testament to Ben's directing and putting the film together. How does it stand up for me 20 years later? I have not watched it in 18 years, so I cannot tell you because I don't know. But the fact that there are still events like this happening and that people still find the movie is incredible. So more than anything, thank you for having an event like this to make us, get to talk about this thing we did. It was really fantastic.
We both want to thank you as comic authors. We couldn't go that far into that subject, but the whole movie and both your characters inspired us profoundly to make our own story. So the outcome of this movie, I think it's always a good one if you watched it like the right way. And that's what we are trying to achieve by doing this sort of thing. So thank you so much for doing this movie and for participating here and for being so nice and for having a cat coming and going around. That was nice and cute too. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This was really, really wonderful.
Thank you. ¡Qué rápido! Joder,
Yo habría
me
tirado-
parece que le has cortado, ¿no? Que iban a decir algo y ha sido como ¡boom! Pero no lo cortes, hijo.
Mateo se ciñe un horario.
Horario y ya está.
es lo que- da
Bueno,
igual.
es la inauguración de la exposición de Aroa, por eso Mateo tiene tanta prisa, que ha dejado a esta gente ahí así. Nos vemos aquí en Galería Central.
Ben se iba a venir arriba ahora.
Es
Y
verdad.
ha dicho, hasta luego, se acabó.
Y va a enseñar el gato y todo seguro.
Ben iba ahora a decir, quiero deciros que gracias porque... Hasta luego, Ben.
Venga, cállate ya.
Cállate ya, Ben.